screen with you. Okay. So when it comes to the textbooks please let me know if you can't see. I can see a red line down my screen, which means you should be able to see it. There is a link to a reading list which has a variety. So you've got here, go on to this course module. I don't know if you've used them before. And there should be quite a few of online books. So here you go. The majority of the reading books are available online. Well, all of them by the sounds of it. So by the look of it, we've got quite a lot there. So that should mean that you've got access to plenty of sources. I know it's the bit that takes the time, but it's also the bits that gets you the really good marks. So please use those. There is no one of these that is particularly like you must use this, you must use that. What we need is a good, solid understanding of marketing. And actually, the marketing books that I use tend to be ones that are a little bit older that I've just bought off Amazon because I still like flicking through things. So just find a marketing book that you actually get on with, that you quite like, that sort of works for you, and use that as your main one. I do notice here they're all very new as well, so that's really good because we do look for like how old the sources are. So yes, so you've got quite a few sources there that you can use for the assignments, for the practical, not the practical, the academic side of it. So moving back, so yeah, so we've got those that you can access. Have you used those links before to access your textbooks?
Not on that site. We usually just have them, like Lynn usually just put them on a Word document and then uploaded that onto Moodle, and then we would find the books either on Locate or Biblio or something like that.
I think that way should be even easier by the looks of it, shouldn't it? If you can just click on the link and just go do click. If you've any problems with accessing it, do let me know. But I think if you could do that, that's going to work quite well. And then actually, you might as well vary for different parts of the assignment, use different sources, just because it looks really good on your reference list then, doesn't it, to have a variety of them. So right, okay, now let me go through what you're going to be assessed on. So there's it's one assessment, if you like, but it's got two parts to it. So you're going to create a marketing plan, and then so that will be for the Friday night, and then the following week on the Wednesday, you've got what's called a Viva, and this is only 10 minutes long. I've already invited you to them, but a Viva is where we ask you questions on your marketing plan. So it absolutely is not a presentation. So it's not something where you're going to come across. So Emily, we hear that you're very good at slides, but you won't need slides for this. It's going to be a conversation around what you've written. So we use Vivas quite often where and not for this case at all, so please don't think this, but they're a really good way of testing that someone's actually written their own work. And actually, given that you'll have submitted it on the Friday and your Viva's on the Wednesday, you should be so familiar with it that actually it's not a memory test. You can have it right in front of you, but it will just be us asking you, tell me more about this, or do you mind explaining that? So it's sort of a conversation around it. And what will happen is after I've marked your assignments, so if you get them to me on the Friday, if I've got the Saturday allocated to mark them, what I'll do as well, I'll write questions specific for you. So you won't get them in advance, but just to facilitate the discussion. And then I believe I've asked him, and he's accepted for now, but sometimes things do crop up. I've asked Elliot to moderate the Viva, so he'll be there as well. So let's have a look at the assessment itself then. So I'm going to go on to Moodle to have a look. Right. So just find yours. Sorry. What's yours called? Is it AML2 or is it Aston? What would I look at? I'll try Aston Martin 2 and see. Here we go.
It's AMCMDA. Yeah.
Is it yeah, that sounds what
Aston Martin 2 CMDA.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's go into the marketing. Okay. So we've got the first assignment then. So it's on there. Okay. So the assessment, the 4,000 word assessment, so that's between 4,400 and about 3,500 in terms of wording. If you can, I know sometimes people are sort of really concerned about the words, and even though it sounds like quite a lot of words, try and stick to the word count if you can. Try not to create things that you're then turning into images to save words, because it's really obvious that you're doing that. So I really appreciate when people sort of, because part of it is testing your ability to write within a certain parameters. So yeah, so I'd say really you've got between 3,500 and 4,500 words is fine. If you want to put anything in an appendix, you can. However, it isn't marked, so you want to keep the body of it. You want to keep everything that's worth marking in the report itself. So our scenario is that we're working for a business called the Casual Dining Group, and they were. So yeah, just have a look at this. Just read through it rather than, because you can read. So I don't want to read to you. Let me just make it a little bit smaller so it fits on the screen. Oh, sorry. Okay. So this is so topical. I mean, yeah, obviously it was written very recently, the assignment brief. And actually works really well given our sort of current situation of coming out of lockdown as well. So you're going to be writing a 4,000 word assignment. Obviously this is all on Moodle if you haven't read it yet. And you're not the marketing director, you're actually reporting to the new head of marketing. But your brief is about increasing their market share in the hospitality industry and getting people back into restaurants. So we've got 6 learning outcomes. If you just have a scan through these. And those are what I'm going to use as a basis for when I put together your support sheet to make sure that you hit all those. Okay, so I just carry on. So here's your task then. I'll just delete it so we can see more on one screen. What we tend to do is group the tasks according to the learning outcomes. So here we go. Sorry. They're the three things that cover the all the assessment criteria. So at first glance, what's she thinking of that as a an assessment to work on? How does it compare with the other sorts of assessments that you've done?
That was a lot better than the last one.
I think the finance one's quite hard, actually. It's quite flat, actually, as well, isn't it? It's quite dull.
Definitely.
I think with the finance one, I could apply that to what I'm doing. I think with this one, I know nothing about marketing, whereas I had a tiny little bit of an idea about finance. So I think once I know about marketing, I'm probably going to be fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm the same in that respect. I've done nothing to do with marketing in anything I've ever done.
Yeah, I feel like that, but I think from the finance module, I chose the wrong project for that, so I find it very difficult to correlate the finance aspect of it. I ended up doing more of a business plan, which is what brought my mark down a bit, I think. But with this, I think from the learning from that, I'll know definitely just to focus purely on and pick a more suitable. Is this a set project we're looking at, or is that
So I think this is one of the biggest challenges in the sense that you can't. So, for example, a couple of you, the Jay working in PR, you can't do Aston Martin for this. We are sort of given a criteria, a context, which is this idea of this casual dining group. So from what I'm reading there, the casual dining group is a global, because it talks about, doesn't it, marketing internationally and globally. But actually that works quite well because you are working for a brand that is very international, isn't it? Very global for the markets. But I mean, how topical is it for this sort of idea of trying to get people? Because eating out before was never an issue, was it? Do you think it's going to be hard to encourage people back into restaurants now?
No,
you don't.
No, I think lots of people are keen to go back out and be a normal human being again.
Okay. One of the things, so what we're going to do through the contents through the weeks is I'm going to give you the marketing theories and ideas. We're going to relate it to this assignment, so we'll come up with ideas, but I want you to come up with sort of different ideas as well. One of the ways we go about doing that is that we profile customers, and actually one of the ways is called segmenting, so we group customers down. And one of the criteria that you can group people on is on personality profiles. And there's one of them is about having the big 5 personality traits. And there is one that's from neurotic to sort of almost like overly laid back. And I still think on that, if we're looking at certain customers, there will be some that are more on the cautious side. Because if you think about than others that will be, as you say, they're just like really dying for like things to just go back to normal. Because if you think about, say, some of the people that have been shielding, so I think, say, my mum's in her 70s, and now being shielding and being cautious, even though she's been vaccinated and coming up to the second one, is her normal, if that makes sense. So I actually think when we're allowed to meet up, I think she'll be very scared of doing it. So I think you'll get that, but then I think you'll get people that are very different. But I think it depends on that sort of, I think it's just a sort of thing. I imagine you'd be able to find supporting evidence of this, though, that I think for people in the pandemic, I think depending on their personality type, it almost brought off a sort of a level of neuroticism. If that, I'm not saying the being, because obviously there's big things going on, so I'm not diminishing that, but I think it's sort of heightened. Does that make sense? I think people have been sometimes somewhere on a big spectrum, haven't they, in terms of where they sit in terms of what level of risk they're taking. Does that make sense? Don't know. Have you got family members like that, or people that you can relate to, where sometimes they're like so sort of almost, I offered to drop off a present at my mum's on her doorstep for a birthday, and she was like, you must not do it. Like, you've got to be joking, you know, this is just ridiculous.
My family are quite laid back, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
it rubs off on you though when people are like that, though. It's sort of hard. And have you been past people in the street where they're almost like they're sort of stepping back from everyone? Like, I don't know, especially the first lockdown was like that, wasn't it, where people were really scared? Or did you not?
I didn't really go anywhere, to be honest. So, because I had to work from home, and then you could only go to the supermarket, so I didn't really go anywhere.
It was like the exercising once a day when people were sort of trying to ride bikes and things in the same, and just sort of people shouting out to each other, you know, get out of the way. And it was like, oh my God. Or I go running. So you get people who are like totally sort of go over the other side of the road, you know, so far away. It was just, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could we do a survey to find out what real life people think?
No. And I'll tell you what, that was very, very quick and very blunt. If you do, you can use other surveys, so please do. Okay, I'm going to cough, so just one sec. Right. Anything you do, it sounds like the best thing in the world to do that, because it shows evidence of like further research and primary research. Because of that, you have to do an ethics application if you do anything like that, so you mustn't do it. And you need to get ethical approval, and then we have to look through the survey, and then we have to just make sure how you're going to do it and who you're going to ask and all that. It's not worth it. It's such a ball out to do it. I'm a bit recorded, but it's just not worth. So I think I'd look for, because I am sure surveys will exist on people's attitudes towards socialising again. They will. I promise you they will. There's things like Ipsos, which is IPSOS. It's about, like, does a lot of surveys on and it's publicly available, and I think it's done through the government, and that has like how people's behaviours have changed through the pandemics and things. Look for existing research. There is going to be so much on this, because obviously there's this sort of sense of elation that we're going to be out of lockdown, and aren't we going to do this and aren't we going to do that. But I think it would be really interesting to see, and also people's intentions versus what they do. It's really difficult to get it to actually know, because actually what you think you're going to do, and then if you go out and do it, they're not always the same, are they?
No.
And another thing that would be really interesting is just actually, we're thinking about our experience. I'm thinking about my experience in the UK, in the Midlands, you know, a very small part of it. How's that going to translate to across the world? Because I outside of this, I run a small marketing and training consultancy, and so this is why this is like the perfect module for us to start with. And one of my clients, who I'm speaking to later today, runs a horse treat business from America, and he was saying, so he's in America at the moment, which is why I meet him in the sort of late afternoon. He was saying that in America, their attitudes, they're not locked down like we are. It's so different. It's not affected the economy in the same way. It has affected incoming and outgoing travel, but that's another factor, because actually we're not talking about the same territory. So I think there may be certain markets that are going to be easier for people to adapt. Something else worth bearing in mind is, how long does it take to form a habit? So have you heard of this idea? You know, so for example, if you stop smoking, or if you stop or start doing something, there's an idea that there's an optimum period of time, isn't there? That if you do it for a certain period of time, then it sort of becomes. Has anyone heard that before? Is it 6 weeks or something? Have you ever tried to do something like, I don't know, start exercising, stop smoking, start, I don't know, lose weight or whatever, that it becomes a habit after a certain period of time? Whatever it is, that could affect your audience in the sense of, actually we need to get them into a habit again, don't we? And then what happened, which made it even worse, we had to help out to eat out, didn't we? Or eat out to help out. Do you remember that last year?
Yeah.
And then what was the consequences of that?
Just made the numbers go back up.
No, it's another lockdown, wasn't it? So it's like, do you know what I mean? So it's almost like the experience recently has been a bit of I don't know, it's not been something to give anyone confidence, has it? So it's like, oh, sugar, we've got a problem now with the economy, so we need to get people eating out again, so we'll do this. So they did it, and it, hugely effective. I mean, I've never eaten out so cheaply in my life, and then all closed down again as a result. Missed out on Christmas trade, everything. So you're in a difficult context, aren't we, in terms of this type of business? Is quite a challenging one. But then we've got latent demand. We've got now a level of confidence, and actually they reckon this summer is going to be one of the worst for crime ever as well, because it's like there's been a suppression, hasn't there, of everything. Honestly, they're really worried in London. They're putting out reports about, like, once we're out of lockdown, they're really expecting crime figures to rise. So I think, so yeah, so a little bit, some of you are saying a bit nervous about the sort of marketing side of it, just in terms of not really knowing anything about marketing. Do you think it'll be a fairly interesting one to do?
I think so. I don't want to be the only person who keeps talking though.
I know that. I'm going to try and pick on someone out. Because I think it, you know, I know I'm not doing it, and I know I like marketing, so I'm really conscious that I'm really biased. But Jay, you're in PR. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be really interesting. Something that's a bit more up my street.
Yeah, this one should be more of a natural fit, shouldn't it, for you?
Yeah.
Tell you who it might not be a natural fit for though is Rob. It's not really your thing, is it?
Not at all, really.
No, I'm sorry, I'll laugh it.
No.
You're going to give it a go, though. Well,
yeah,
you haven't got a choice,
yeah.
have you? Just going to
take the next couple of weeks off, shall I?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because I can see for some of you, I think even like the sort of the Q team, Emily's, you know, you just see how this could be quite good. But so, what's in your favour for this one? You've got a huge amount of information that's going to be so current, isn't it? Articles on sort of trends, things like that. Things to look at are Mintel. Have you had anyone from the library services talk to you recently about what resources we've got available on there?
We did a while back, yeah. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Was it Tom that did it as well?
Yeah,
so. Was he little and quiet? Well, you wouldn't know if he was little. Yeah. He's very nice and he's very enthusiastic about reading, which is always nice. Do you know what I'm going to do? I think if I try and see if he's available for our next session, to go and give him the brief and say where would we go about finding information for this? Should I do that? Would that be helpful?
I think so, yes, please.
That'd be good.
Okay. Right. Okay. So that's our plan for one thing. So I'm going to look at a support sheet for you as well. We've got to stick with the sector. So I know, but at least you're all in the same boat with the casual dining. But actually, that is going to be one where there's going to be quite a lot of change, and we need to look forward as to what the trends are on it. And actually, this is not just about selling food now. It's about selling people to change their behaviours. Again, it's about reassuring people that the right things are in place. But you know what? In addition to all that, it changes the experience, doesn't it? So, I mean, I know when we have been allowed to eat out in the last sort of 18 months or last year, there has been periods where it's been okay, hasn't it? It's nothing like it used to be, is it? You can't, you wouldn't talk to, you know, you're literally stuck on your table, aren't you? And you just, do you know what I mean? So it's not, so actually it's sort of educating people about what the experience is going to be like, isn't it? Setting expectations. Jay, were you going to say something?
No.
No, sorry, just your speaker looked like you might. I think I got a bit overexcited when people look like going to speak. Okay, so that's the first one. The first one is a 4,000 word report. So you're looking at, basically, it's quite practical, isn't it? What are we going to do? What are the challenges? We're going to look at a sort of marketing process. And today we're going to go through a strategic marketing process. So at least you'll have a framework to go through. And I will use that on the support sheet. So the second one, okay, I need you to upload some notes. This sounds stupid, but it could be not anything, but I just need you to upload a file, otherwise I can't mark it. So the file will not be marked. So it's literally, if you've just, you could almost, if you wanted to, you could upload your first assignment again. We just need a file, but the reason, so this is your preparation for the Viva. So this will be where you look through your marketing plan, but you've actually sort of almost looked at some of the key concepts and prepared maybe some notes on it. So you should already have got a list of your times for the Viva, and I'll come back to my slides in a minute. So they're all going to be on Teams. They're literally 10 minutes. You've got no longer got 10 minutes, and then I've got 5 minutes to mark them afterwards, and then I'm on to the next. So it's Wednesday, the 12th of May. I'm pretty sure they're all in the afternoon, and they're just one after the other that you've got those. So it'll be myself and Elliot, and yeah, we'll just have a discussion and ask you some questions about your assignment. It's only worth 20%. Okay, so it's just cementing all that knowledge you've got. So it's, let's just open up the file. So it's exactly the same in the sense of it's based on I'll just do this. Sorry. It's 10 minutes long, which is why it's worth only 20%. It's used to assess your sort of knowledge of the subject based on what you've written on your assignment. So it's really how you've applied the concept. So, you know, it would almost be, talk me through the plan that you've written. So you sort of explain it, but you don't read it, you summarise it. And okay, so you've suggested this, what's that based on? What's your idea there? So it should be fairly pleasant, actually. It's exactly the same learning outcomes. So you're just presenting your research findings. So I know you were saying about, you know, primary research, please keep it to secondary. And that's why if I get Tom involved on that, we'll try and work out what sources we could use for secondary research on dining, and particularly sort of moving out of lockdown. So how you've gone about it, and what you're proposing that we do. So you're really having to do, in the sort of most aggressive wording for this, Aviva is about defending your ideas. So it's about sort of saying, you know, I'm not really fully understanding where you think, what you're thinking about this. Do you mind explaining it a bit more? So you sort of almost, you'll be used to doing it at work if you come up with ideas where you're having to say, look, you know, based on what I've said, this is the way we think we should do it. And then we'll go, well, why? And you'll explain the why, the rationale behind it. So you will please bring along, well, obviously it will be online, so you can have a copy of your assessment there so you can refer to it. And as I say, what I'm going to do is look at your specific one and come up with some tailored questions based on your suggestions. So it shouldn't just be describing, it should be more about, you know, how you actually think we should do it. You know, what evidence have you got to suggest that should be the way forward? What challenges do you think that we're going to have in sort of relaunching the business and getting people in the restaurants again? So you need to really sort of reread your assignment, highlight the bits that you think are the main ones, expand on them a bit. You may have, obviously you can have more evidence there. The reports that you've maybe used have access to those, so you can quote facts and figures quite easily. But we want to try and get it moving at quite a pace, so you've got access to that information really easily. What do you think about the idea of Aviva? Because I don't guess you've never done one before, have you?
I think I like the idea of that more than doing a presentation.
So it's a damn sight less. I think it's less scripted. It's more like, because presentations you lose the will a bit, don't you? Because you're just like, you're talking to people and get no feedback. And this one's a conversation, so actually it's a little bit more sort of, you can't prepare word for word, but it's, you're bouncing off each other, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do bear in mind as well, we are on your side, so it's not like we're trying to trip you up on this. It's just we want to give you an opportunity to get the best marks. So yeah, in it you'll be asked to sort of really talk through your approach, the way you're doing it, and what your recommendations are. So you're sort of talking about how you've applied things. This is straight out of the assignment brief. As I say, I do need you to upload a file, otherwise I can't mark. I need something. So really get to grips with what you've written. I would translate that into, what you really want is something that you can easily see on your screen when you're all printed out, so that when we're talking to you, you can just quickly, if you need a fact or figure, that it's easily available. Please talk with it, like have a conversation rather than reading to us, because that's not going to feel very confident. It'll be done on Teams. Obviously, you can all access Teams. Have you got your invites already?
I think it was on our uni email.
Was it? I think most of you have accepted. Would you prefer? Do you want me to resend them to your works email?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll do that as well. So be prepared. You know, like, so you can have a bit of a bombard. And then what you can do is, if there's any risk, like if you're not going to be at work, please forward it on to your personal email so you've still got it. Yep, so your time slots will all be in there. They're literally, they're a 15-minute time slot. Please put your camera on. That would matter. One of the things today when I've asked you the questions was testing that your microphones all work, so I know that you can all converse. Has anyone got any issue? We have issues with switching your camera on? Has anyone not got a camera? Or
Sometimes my camera plays up where I get loads of lines going across the camera. It never used to work on Skype and Teams, so I don't know. But I can try and sort that out nearer the time.
Okay, that sounds brilliant. If you can, that'd be great. It just is. It feels more like a conversation if we can see you. That's all. So it would be much, much better. Look, we can't penalise you for stuff if you haven't got access to the way we're asking you to do it. But yeah, if you can, it will feel better. So yeah, if you could try.
No worries.
Okay.
Is this whole last year going to be online, Hannah? Are we going to have the chance to go back into classroom, or do we know?
Right. I think with the guidelines as they are, this module will definitely be online.
Yeah.
I think they're going to try and move back into the classroom. I think they are. I think they are for this course. I mean, are you preferring it? Would you prefer it in the classroom?
Yeah, to be honest. Yeah.
I do.
Do you?
I have a question though. How would it work if some of us have to go and work for a different business? How would it then work with us all being in the same classroom then? Because previously it was done on site at Aston, but if I don't work there anymore.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Would we just do sessions actually on campus then?
Yeah, I think so.
Campus or a localised agreement. I can't see them not honouring some sort of localised agreement. It's not like you're going into the main building anyway.
Yeah, and actually, if you've accepted voluntary redundancy, it's not like you've been. Yeah. But having said that before, when I've taught like the other group from Aston Martin, I did it. It was purely on site at in the centre of Coventry. So I think that possibly would work better. Okay. So I think for now it will be for this block it's online. For subsequent blocks, they are trying to shift the restrictions, but they're trying to do it in quite a managed way. And obviously we're sort of what they were trying to do initially was as of January they were trying to get full-time learners back for 1 day a week, and then the rest of it 3 days a week was online. But that just stopped, didn't it? Because then we went into lockdown again. So it was only certain courses that were allowed to do it. Let's have a look. In terms of our schedule, our next block starts in, is it in June? It is, isn't it? So actually it's 26th of May, isn't it? I think our next one starts. Organisational development. We may be back for that. Is it all right? I'll just keep you posted as I know.
Yeah, sure. I didn't know if you knew already, if anything was sort of in foot, but
no, there's not been no. I mean, there's sort of announcements tend to be. They used to be like, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, and now they're like very, very baby steps because I think because they've been quite bold, and then that we've had to pull back. So I think, given that we're sort of out of a national lockdown, if all goes to plan, isn't it, on the 21st of June?
Yeah.
It might be within the next block that we're sort of going back to the classroom, so it might not even be at the beginning. But that's
likely to be at Cov rather than AML.
Well, this is what I need to find out as well, is in terms of where it would actually be. Is anyone going to have a problem with that?
It's not a problem. It's a trek, but it's not a problem.
Where are you coming from?
Wolverhampton.
Oh, okay, that's where I'm from. Well, I live in Rugby now, but yeah, it's where my homeland. Yes, so I do understand that it is. And also, do any of you work in Wales sometimes?
They're trying to stop that. I think trying to stop travel between sites.
Yeah, I did a lot of support there over the last year, but I've sort of told them now that I'm not going to do it. So.
Okay.
But it may still be on the cards, rarely.
I'm going to have to think about the way we do this, because it might be that there's some recorded element that I do each week as well as some face-to-face. So it might be, if for any reason it isn't feasible to come in that you don't miss out. That's all. So I just need to let's see how it rolls out, but we'll have options. But I just think if we know for a fact that not the group isn't going to be all, you're not all going to be working for Aston Martin. We know that because of Tamsin's situation. So I will, I'll just keep you posted on that, and I'll start asking the questions and getting it ready so that we've got as much of a pre-warning as possible. Okay. So back to the material, and then we'll start our break, which will work very well for the 11 o'clock solicitors call, won't it? So yes, in terms of questions, so what literature did you find useful? Make sure you read something. You know, summarise your findings if there's any bits that you think are particularly interesting. And actually, you be honest about, in terms of, if you say, look, my research is limited because I've used secondary sources. I would have really liked to use primary sources, but given the timescale and also the ethical approval process, that hasn't been, you know, so you can be a little bit critical of the way you've approached it, but not in a way of saying you've done the wrong thing, but just being honest about how far you've been able to do your research. But really, the key thing we're interested in is your recommendations and why. Why did you make them? And then there'll be certain things, this will make more sense to look back on once we've done the contents, where if we feel you haven't, basically, if there's certain things that we feel like you could have done a bit more on, we might bring those up, so it gives you a chance to score the marks on them if you haven't actually covered them as well as you might have done in the assignment. So just, this will be a case of sort of going, when I create the support sheet, having a bit of a checklist there, and I'll go through it afterwards and just see the bits that maybe you could have done a bit more on. So there's some examples of those here, but again, they won't make a huge amount of sense now because we haven't covered the contents. So there's some examples for you to go back to prepare for the questions, and then these are the times that I've given you, and I'm going to send them to your work address as well. Okay, so they should all tally with what you've seen, and I think the hyperlink should all work as well on the slide when you download it from Moodle. So are you okay? Has anyone got any questions before we have a break? I think we'll.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we'll go on.
It says on your that delivery time thing, Jack Carroll, but Jack's left the business. He doesn't do the degree anymore.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you. Yeah, that's thank you. I didn't. Yeah, information's a bit out of date. The assignment will make more sense when we go through. So please know this wasn't the only conversation about it. We'll keep going back to it. I think at the beginning it's worth knowing what we're aiming for, and then we'll keep connecting with it to make sure as it makes more and more sense. Okay. So in terms of a break, how long would you like now? Do you reckon about 20 minutes? Do you want a bit longer?
I'm not
20's all good.
I think 20 is good. So if we come, so actually, if we come back at say 20 past, actually 20 past 11, and then we'll work through to sort of lunchtime then, and then take a half-an-hour break for lunch, and we just keep going. I think the first bit's always quite the longest bit, where we're just sort of getting the foundations in place, and then we'll start really working through the content. So I'll see you again at 20 past 11. We'll come back online, same link. Okay.